Well, I think Prime Minister Carney tried to put on a mask for a bit, and he's really a globalist.
Mandates are the way to avoid further.
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Loony. We'll get back to making fun of Justin Trudeau wearing that stupid mask. He's going to pay the price for what he did. In the meantime, we're going to be exposing our Prime Minister, the con man, Mark Carney. We've got the United States Secretary of Treasury going to expose a lot about the globalists. First, we're going to kick it off with BC's crying Premier David Eby telling people to stay home and avoid our American friends. That's not a solution. David Eby is a con man. CBC is going to try to cover up for our Prime Minister. Let's take a peek. We will be taxing Trudeau a lot in this video towards the end. It's a lot of fun. Let's kick it off. David Eby's crying a river. Let's take a peek.
Last year, you were urging British Columbians to stay home during spring break travel. I know a lot of families are kind of looking at their plans right now and finalizing things. And are you sharing that same message with them again this year?
Yeah, thanks, Penny. I don't know if people have seen it, but I looked at a graphic posted by the president with an American flag superimposed on our country, and I even struggle now for the words to describe the mix of emotions. There is no question but that the Prime Minister's speech will have trade consequences in terms of our relationship with the United States. But those trade consequences are minimal compared to the larger term consequences of giving up our sovereignty as a country and not standing bravely as Canadians have for generations for this beautiful country that we live in. So I feel that there is an urgency and an essential requirement that the Prime Minister and Canadians step up in this moment, and that may involve sacrifice, and that our government will do all we can to offset that through the work that we're doing in partnership with the federal government and with other countries. I certainly urge British Columbians and all Canadians to stay home or to travel at home or to travel to other countries rather than the US. The message is being received by the United States. They are feeling it. They're feeling fewer tourists coming to their country. The refusal to purchase and sell US alcohol has been heard and is creating anxiety in the United States. And it is not meant to hurt everyday Americans. It's meant to send a message that, at least from my perspective, that as Canadians, we're going to do all we can to support other Canadians. Recognize there's essential travel people are going to do. They're going to visit relatives, all these other things. But if you have a choice of where you're going to go on vacation, I really encourage people to look somewhere else.
Next, we'll hit.
The relationship with the United States remains important and strong and vital to Canada's economy. So, he is aware of balancing that. But I am curious to see how those, attention-grabbing words that he had this week will. Whether there will be a price to pay for them in terms of how the U.S. responds to it.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because at least one Premier Eie in British Columbia, he said yesterday there will be a price to pay for Mark Carney's speech in Davos. Yeah. But that price is worth it for our sovereignty. So, and we've heard Stephen Harper make those kind of remarks months ago. So, that's the question, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, and I think it's a calculated risk. The Prime Minister is someone who knows a lot about making deals and negotiating, and he's obviously hedging here. That making those comments in this moment was more important than worrying about what was to come, and maybe that's fair for right now, but I think what is so difficult about this moment and this job is that you also have to find a resolution with the United States. And that is very much, of course, what he promised Canadians he would do. He promised, certainly, to build a stronger Canadian economy, to find further trading partners and even security partners, but he also promised the other piece. So, I guess if I was interviewing him today, my question would be, what are you going to do to get that ball moving again? And are you concerned that what you put forward, what you set on the table, actually will prevent that from happening? And we don't know that yet, but I do think that that's a fair question and part of the Prime Minister's calculated risk, if you will, that he took making that speech.
And smash the like, hit subscribe. The video takes off here. We've got Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury for the United States, cutting up Mark Carney. Check this out. Friggin' globalist.
When we look at that, though, we did see Prime Minister Carney came out and had some pretty scathing words for President Trump. He also talked about the old order has been destroyed. We're not going back to the old order. We now have this new situation. How do you take his remarks?
Well, I think Prime Minister Carney tried to put on a mask for a bit, and he's really a globalist. He was governor of the Bank of Canada, then governor of the Bank of England, then he was the UN climate czar. And he tried to disappear that credential, seemed like he was more reasonable. And when he said he wants to make Canada an energy powerhouse, Canada has great natural resources, but I don't think he wants to bring them out. He was just in China, and President Trump said Canada should trade with China. But when he came out and said China shares Canadian values, really? And Jack, let's just keep in mind here, Texas has a bigger GDP than Canada. Texas has a bigger GDP than Canada. So one state in the U.S., more than our northern neighbor.
That's even with all the oil and the natural resources coming out of Canada. Texas is still larger.
Well, look, Alberta is a wealth of natural resources, but they won't let them build a pipeline to the Pacific. I think we should let them come down into the U.S., and Alberta is a natural partner for the U.S. They have great resources. The Albertans are very independent people. Rumored that they may have a referendum on whether they want to stay in Canada or not.
Sounds like you may know something up there.
Look, people are saying, people are talking. People are talking. People want sovereignty. They want what the U.S. has got. Because when I look at Europe, how can they have sovereignty? They don't have immigration sovereignty. They've let their borders be overrun. They don't have economic sovereignty. They are dependent on China, and they do not have a security sovereignty because they are so far behind on defense and rare earths. They need to live under the U.S. security umbrella, and we are happy to have them in the umbrella. President Trump has asked them to contribute a fair amount, the allocated amount that they are to NATO.
Smash the like, hit subscribe, keep watching. We've got Justin Trudeau. Would you let this guy cop a feel for a Jack and Coke? Let's take a peek.
She ordered a Jack and Coke. The server kindly informed her that there was no more American alcohol, not just in that bar, but anywhere in Montreal and probably anywhere across the entire country. That's an example of Canadians standing up for each other. That's an example of soft power, being motivated to be there for each other at a time of stress, at a time of anxiety. Oh gosh, Kinsey, these two deserve each other.
I think it's an example of how cheap Canada is. But, I would need a Jack and Coke too if I were to let that guy cop a feel. I think he's the biggest creep. But why? But why are we platforming losers who quit their jobs is my real question. It's the second coming of Prince Harry, Justin Trudeau, coming to a Toronto Hilton real estate convention near you. I don't care what he has to say. Neither do Canadian truck drivers. This man has no backbone.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, all this talk about Canadian unity and soft power. Well, where was that when he was seizing bank accounts and targeting Canadian truckers who were just wanting to work? So, yeah, when it counted, he was an absolute tyrant.
You don't get back to the things you like to do unless you do your part for the community and get vaccinated.
If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk.
If anyone who doesn't have a legitimate medical reason for not getting fully vaccinated chooses to not get vaccinated, there will be consequences. You will not be able to travel on a plane or a train in Canada if you are not fully vaccinated. We have made the decision that federal public servants need to be fully vaccinated.
Mandates are the way to avoid further restrictions.
While not forcing anyone to get vaccinated.
Not forcing anyone
We're not a country that makes vaccination mandatory.
Lies, lies, and more lies, and lies on top of.
The problem is not the science of creating the vaccine. The problem was the public policy and how to use the vaccine. The vaccine should have never been mandated. It wasn't never meant to prevent transmission. It didn't prevent transmission. Probably was a misnomer to call it a vaccine. It's really more like a medicine. It doesn't stop infection. Children should have never been vaccinated. People shouldn't have been mandated to be vaccinated to go to school and work. So the policy side was totally misplayed, okay? And I know the vaccine came out on the 14th of December, and I was out of office on January 20th, so unfortunately I had very little influence on the policy. But I did argue that it should be a vaccine that we should use for the vulnerable. Put it in the nursing homes, put it in assisted living. Don't mandate this vaccine, didn't belong in children. So a lot of overreach. And as a consequence, the mRNA was a new technology. It hadn't, we don't know all of the potential negative consequences. I'll say this briefly because I see the timer. When I give you an mRNA vaccine, and I've talked to the FDA and others about this, when I give you an mRNA vaccine, I don't know how much spike protein you make. I turn you into a spike protein factory. I think the FDA should know how much protein do you make. And I don't know how long you make it. I think we ought to know how long do you make it. And I don't know the volume of distribution of it in your body. I think we should know all of those things.
Oh, yeah. Canadian federal politics are absurd. We're going to stick a fork in that video. It's over. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Please leave a comment below if you have something to share. Enjoy this playlist. Check out this video. We've got lots of things to watch. Aaron, Canadian Looney. We'll catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching this one. Ciao for now.
Will there always be a Canada? There will always be a Canada. All right. Elbows up. Elbows up.